Well, you're welcome back. An estimated 1 in 4 pregnancies in Ireland ends in miscarriage. This week marks Baby Loss Awareness Week, a time for people to come together and remember those who have died during pregnancy or after birth.
Joining us this morning is bereavement midwife at National Maternity Hospital, Sarah Cullen, and Rachel Hetherington, who suffered 5 miscarriages over the course of 5 years. Thanks both of you so much for joining us this morning. I know it's not an easy thing to talk about, Rachel, but if you could you just share your story with us?
Of course, yeah. So I had my first child in 2014, a beautiful, healthy girl. And then in 2015, we decided that we wanted to add to our family. So, we embarked on trying for another baby. And then from 2016 onwards, unfortunately, we suffered a lot of miscarriage. So I had 2 miscarriages in 2016 and then 3 recurrent miscarriages in 2017 before getting the positive pregnancy test on January the 18th, 2018. So that was absolutely delighted, but also tinged with fear, because when you've had a lot of recurrent miscarriages, obviously you're constantly worrying, constantly checking, and just concerned that things might not go quite as well. And that's where the support of the National Maternity Hospital and Sarah was so vital to my journey.
During the recurring miscarriages, did you talk about them? How did you handle them?
Well, I have a really supportive husband. My husband, Mark, is fabulous, and, we've shared the experience together. But it's like you don't want to make a fuss. I know some people have had much worse experiences than myself, but you just sort of brush yourself off, get on with it. And then my own GP kind of said to me, look, maybe you should give up now. Stop trying, because it had kind of affected my mental health and it was taking its toll. But I knew that if we just gave it one last shot, maybe we'd get a happy ending, which we did with Hector. We're absolutely thrilled to have our little boy now.
How important, Sarah, is it to have structures and supports in place for women and families like Rachel? And we were marking Baby Loss Awareness Week this week, but particularly when it comes to maybe losing a baby before term, there's almost a feeling that you can't grieve properly.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think a lot of people are very hesitant to talk about it openly. There's a lot of secrecy around pregnancy loss, and there's a culture in Ireland where you don't tell anyone you're pregnant till 12 weeks in case you lose the baby. But I think more and more, and weeks like Baby Loss Awareness Week, it's so important that we are talking about it more, and that women like Rachel, that that it's okay to talk about it. And the more you talk about it, the more other people then start to open up and talk about their experiences. Because, as we said, 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. So many women have gone through that experience,
But in one way, to some extent, that I suspect makes it difficult for people to know what to do. Because in one sense, you want to say, well, that happens and it's normal. But on the other, for the woman, for both sides of the couple, it is a loss that you want to grieve. It's a hard balance to find.
Definitely.
And I think from the second you get that positive pregnancy test, it's a baby, it's your baby for the mum and the dad. And the due date, and you're thinking towards shopping for prams and all of that right from the very start. So no matter how early in pregnancy, even if you lose the baby 2 or 3 days later, it was still your baby, it was still a loss, and you have every right to grieve that loss.
Yeah, and of course there's not only the mother, there's the father, there's perhaps siblings as well.
Yeah.
It affects the entire family. How did you and yours go?
Well, especially as Phoebe was getting a little bit older, because obviously they know, and you're almost afraid to share the joy that they're going to have another sibling, because you think it may not, turn out as you hope. And as Sarah just said, as soon as you get that positive on the pregnancy test, you've already planned your hopes and dreams for that child, that member of your family. And you don't forget those dates either. Even when you have had a happy outcome, and now we're so happy to have Phoebe and Hector, but you always remember how tough it was and those dates when the other children may have been born.
And people can unintentionally be very insensitive when it comes to issues like this. because you had a child already.
Exactly.
Oh, sure, you're lucky you have
Yes.
one. Nobody wants to be hearing that when they're going
No.
through the trauma of something like this.
No, and we are lucky. You know, we did have our beautiful daughter, and had it not turned out that we got Hector at the end of our journey, I would have been obviously delighted that I had a child. And I know some women aren't that lucky, but you don't want to hear it. No, and you want to. Every single person, no matter when their loss occurred or whatever stage, it's important to them, and that's why we want to get people talking. Because, you know, it's not just about my story, it's about getting women talking about their experiences and getting the help they need to support them.
Explain then the role of the bereavement midwives here. How does that work?
So there's a team of bereavement midwives in the National Maternity Hospital. There's 3 of us. So there's myself and then my colleagues Brenda and Kasia. And we work very closely with the rest of the team in the National Maternity Hospital, in particular the chaplaincy team. So we then would look after families who have any kind of pregnancy loss, no matter how far along into the pregnancy and regardless of the circumstances. So we would support parents throughout their journey of their loss. Maybe if it was a later loss, we might help them to spend some time with their baby. You know, years ago, 30, 40 years ago, when someone had a stillborn baby, the baby was just taken away and they were never given the opportunity to see their baby even. So that's really important that we facilitate parents to spend time with their baby and to create little memories for them. So Féileacán are a wonderful charity throughout Ireland that provide memory boxes for all 19 maternity units. So we would put together a little memory box for families, and then we also have the NMH Foundation within the hospital that provide us with extra resources to be able to make lots of different memories for parents who've lost a baby.
Emotionally taxing work, I assume.
Yeah, it is. It is very emotional work, but it's an immense privilege to look after couples and families during what must be the most devastating experience. And it's lovely then to journey with patients like Rachel throughout a rainbow pregnancy, so a pregnancy after loss. And then I had the privilege of meeting Hector and holding Hector and having updates every year on his birthday, and we mark Valentine's Day very specially now because Valentine's Day was the first scan that Rachel had where we saw the heartbeat.
Oh, wow. And for what you were saying before we came on here, he's quite the handful. Quite the personality.
Absolutely bonkers, but we wouldn't have him any other way.
I have to say it's so lovely, and thank you so much for sharing your story today. And the work you do is absolutely amazing, Sarah. So, and what we're speaking about today will raise so much awareness for what, happily for you, was a
Really
good outcome.
happy.
So many people, though, are still suffering throughout the country, and they can get help. It is available for them. The National Maternity Hospital will light up in pink and blue as part of International Wave of Light this Friday to remember babies who died during pregnancy or after birth. For more information on this, please visit nmhfoundation.ie.
And if you've been affected by anything we've been discussing this morning, you can, of course, check out virginmediatelevision.ie/helplines.
Stay with us. We're back after this quick break.